Well, thank you for that very warm welcome to Philadelphia. And so on behalf of the 2.1 million Houstonians, thanks right back. I'm really happy to be here and truly honored to be selected as a role model for the community. Now, I know that it's been a long evening and I'm like the last person on the agenda for tonight, so I'm not speaking too long, but I want to have a little bit of a conversation with you because I know what you thought when I was elected. We're friends, we can be honest. I know what you thought. Houston? My God, Houston? Elected a lesbian? Really? That must be a typo. It couldn't have happened. Actually, there were two reactions. It was either Houston or a lesbian, and then in my family it was, your mayor? But you don't know Houston. And I want just a moment to tell you a little bit about my city, which is America's fourth largest city. We're just a little bit ahead of Philadelphia. Yeah. Yeah, but of course we're both behind Chicago, which is really bad. But we are a global, cosmopolitan, very, very international city. And all of the major industries in Houston have an international component. And while it was a surprise to the rest of the world when I was elected, Houstonians knew me, they had worked with me, they had voted for me 6 times previously. I was the most qualified candidate. I executed the best campaign, and I won the race. That's how it's supposed to work. But what happened after I was elected astounded me. I have been a lesbian activist since the 70s. I was a founding member of the student support group at Rice when I was there, and president or an officer of virtually every GLBT organization in Houston and the state of Texas. But on election night, my election and the response to my election really stunned me. I was overwhelmed with media attention. I had a shout out from Rachel Maddow. That was very cool. I was a joke on The Daily Show. I was a joke on The Jay Leno Show. I had a call from the president. Now that was a highlight. Now you would think that the President of the United States would have someone call ahead and say, the president's going to call? But no, I let it go to voicemail. And I played it for everybody I ran into for the next week, and then I accidentally erased it. No, I know. When I was elected the second time, it was the vice president who called. I'm on the ballot again. If I'm elected the third time, it's probably going to be the Secretary of Labor or something that calls to congratulate me. But I really did receive worldwide media coverage. Normally, the election of a mayor of Houston doesn't make a front page paragraph on the Times of India. I had calls from China, from all over South America, from Africa, all over Europe. An onslaught of media attention. And again, that dichotomy, lesbian mayor, major American city, and then Houston. I want to tell you a brief story, a little bit about Houston and about the fact that it wasn't always quite as comfortable being a role model and being a spokesperson. Now, I have been a spokesperson for our community for a very, very long time. But back in the late 80s, I was the president of the Houston Gay and Lesbian Political Caucus. I think I was about 30 years old. And I was on TV on a regular basis. I would debate people. But you know, sometimes you don't want to have to be a gay activist. You want to be able to take that off and let things go and kind of slide by. Well, I had a responsibility one year as part of our Gay Pride celebration. We always have a big celebration, and at the end of the celebration we would go to a local park and we have a big fireworks show. And that year I was in charge of the fireworks. As president of the organization, we were hosting the big celebration after the Pride Parade. And the parade was going to be on Sunday. This was Friday. I was trying to get out of town. I wanted to run by the park and just check out, make sure that everything was going to work perfectly so that I could turn off the lights and we could do the fireworks. And I got there and my light key didn't work. And I couldn't figure out what to do, and it was like 10 minutes to 5 on a Friday afternoon, and Lord knows there would be no one in City Hall. Even then I knew that. The park where we did this was a big bowl-shaped affair, and so I'm trudging back up the hill to the top of the hill, and there's a City Public Works truck parked at the top of the hill, and I thought, and it had electrical department on the side of the Public Works truck. Oh God, my savior. So I went running up to the truck, and it was a truck that had wheels about this tall. And I knocked on the door, and a guy looked down at me, and I put my best helpless female self on. I can do drag. And I said, would you please help me? I need to turn off these lights, and my key's not working, and please. And so the guy climbed down out of the truck, and he was much older than I don't know how old he was, but he was much older than I, and he was about this tall, and he had a cigar, and he had a limp. And I mentioned the limp only because he decides he's going to help me, and he's walking down, and we're walking down a fairly steep hill, and we're walking very, very slowly. And he's gnawing on his cigar, and he's just making conversation with me. And he goes, they let anybody use these parks. Yeah, you're right. And he goes, last week there were a bunch of, and he's gnawing on this cigar and he kind of mumbling, and there were a bunch of witches in here. And like, witches? And he goes, chanting and burning incense. And oh yeah, there was a group of Wiccans here last week, and yeah, I saw that. I was surprised. They let anybody use this park. And we kept walking, and he looked at me and he goes, well, what are you doing here? What kind of an event? I said, it's a celebration. And he said, well, what you celebrating? And I said, I just want these damn lights turned on. And I'm trying to think, because I really needed to figure out how this worked. And I said, well, it's not really a celebration, it's a rally. And a rally? What kind of rally? A political rally. What party? Well, it's not a party. We're bipartisan. And he says, well, finally he says, what organization? And I'm the president of this organization, I remind you. And I said, Gay and Lesbian Political Caucus. And I kept walking, and I walked faster. And he stopped. He said, what organization? And I said, the Gay and Lesbian Political Caucus. Actually, at that time, it was the Gay Political Caucus. And I said, the Gay Political Caucus. And he looked me up and down, and he scratched his head, and he said, well, why are you here for that? And I said, because I have the key. And so we started walking again. And he took a few more steps, and he looked at me, and he goes, you're not gay, are you? And I'm like, I said, yes, sir, I am. And I really need your help. I need your help to turn this key on, because we're having this big event here, and you're my only hope. And he takes another few steps with me, and then he just stops, and he looks at me, and he goes, I don't approve of your lifestyle. I don't have to do this. I don't think you belong here. And I'm just going to go get in my truck, and I'm going to go home. I'm already off the clock. And I said, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but really, I don't know what else to do. I'm trying to get out of town. I'm on my way to the Democratic Convention, And he goes, "You're a Democrat?" And I said, "Yes, sir. And I'm a delegate to the convention. I know I waited too long, and I apologize. Would you please consider helping me?" And he stared at me for a very long time, and he says, "Well, I'm a lifelong Democrat and union man. Honey, come on, let's go turn your lights on." And what I learned and what I carried with me from that day is that Americans are fundamentally fair and decent people, but you absolutely have to be honest with them. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be honest with them about who you are and what you're about. And I went back to my office, and I was working at an oil company at that time, and I put a quote by André Gide on my computer. And if you go to the mayor's office today, you'll find that quote still on my computer in the mayor's office. And it says, "It is better to be hated for what one is than loved for what one is not." In 35 years of activism, I've heard over and over again about a gay agenda. Y'all heard about that, this gay agenda. And I used to say, there is no such thing as a gay agenda. I used to go and debate homophobes, and they'd bring up the gay agenda, and I'd say there's no gay agenda. Well, I think it's time to be honest and acknowledge the gay agenda. And I want everyone in here to memorize the gay agenda. The gay agenda is the ability to protect lifelong, loving relationships. The gay agenda is to hold jobs and pay taxes and serve our country with honor. The gay agenda is the ability to go to a classroom and be safe. The gay agenda is the American dream. And as we continue to fight for our piece of that American dream, remember that we are not asking for our rights. We are claiming what is rightfully ours. Thank you.